Alright everyone, welcome back to my stuff, episode 3. As I said, software. And this isn't even all of it, this is just the floppy disks. So yeah, we're going to go through and we're just going to show off what I've got from years of, well, running a computer. First we're going to start off with program files. You got, what is it, Lotus? Lotus! Oh yeah, Lotus. Lotus Works is kind of like back in, see, when was this? 92. Yeah, early 90s. That's early 90s, what is it? Word processing. So yeah, this is like before Office, or about around the time of the original Microsoft Office. I don't know when Microsoft Office came out. But anyway, Microsoft Office. What else is in, like I said, Lotus Works. Oh, this was for the Packard Bell. You remember the computer I told you guys about last time, the Packard Bell? This came with it. Yeah, so you could do word processing on your computer. Because what else was there to do back then? The other thing I've got here from around 91 is the entire WordPerfect suite. The install program, the share program. Yeah, this is before like internal wire, like file sharing. This is early file sharing is what this thing is. Share program. I'm stacking them this way so it'll be easier for me to put them back in the container over there. Printer 1. Ah, yeah. Drivers so you could tell your word processor how to talk to your printer. Because otherwise, it wouldn't. Language module. Like separate languages. Graphics and, yeah, that's like PowerPoint and that kind of stuff. Graphics and learnings. Something like that. I never use that very much. And more shared utilities. Just anything that they couldn't think of, they just shoved it on those disks. So, WordPerfect. Where are we going to go to next? Ah, this thing. I always like this little thing. This is a disk holder shaped like an old monitor. Yeah, they have a little slide out tray because where you put the little unused labels in here, and then you'd open this up. What did I stick in here? What do I got? I got MS-DOS. Yeah, 6.22. Okay, that's disk 3. Which means this is, yeah, there's disk 2 and disk 3. Formatted at a whole 1.44 megabytes. There you go. What is that? Oh, what's left of an old rubber band. These must have been rubber bound together before I put them in there. Yeah, I had to, I used to have all this stuff like just in boxes. Both my father and I had a lot of, I think this was probably some of his discs. Yeah, I got a lot of his old software when we moved out of our old house. He didn't want it anymore because it's old software. What are we going to do with it? We don't even have an actual computer that uses that kind of stuff anymore. This is, what is this? Microsoft. Oh, Windows! Oh, this is Windows 3.1! Oh, not that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. This is Windows 3.1. I remember using that a lot. It was one of. I still remember that one a lot. Mouse drivers. Because again, your operating system didn't come with drivers. You had to find them. Packard Bell. Another Packard Bell disk. Oh, this is the DOS, and this is DOS 5. So this is the DOS that came with the Packard Bell. The processor that I showed you guys last time came with. And there's the 3.1. Okay, it came with Windows 3.1. And those are its installed disks. It only came with 4. Because it was the... This is 3.1 and this is 3.11. Okay. Yeah, this was the upgrade. We upgraded to... Yeah. So yeah, this is the story of my first computer. Not our first computer, because our first computer was a Commodore 64 back in the early 80s. Had like a big old tape drive. I don't even have any more of any of the old Commodore stuff. I wish I did, but I don't. What I do have is the old Packard Bell stuff. Yeah, it came with DOS and 3.1 and pre-installed in 92. Yeah, 85. Yeah, 92 was when we got the Packard Bell, and then we upgraded to 3.11 in 93. And DOS from 5 to 6 looks like 94. And of course we all know what came after 3.1 was Windows 95. Of course that Windows 95 came on a CD, and the CDs will be in the next episode. And I'll load all that. I'll spare you guys. I'm not going to load them all back up there. I'll put all that stuff back in. Here comes, what is this? This is a stack of blank discs. See, it came with labels, little labels. That's what would fit in that little drawer. Yeah, there we go. Play with my light a little bit. Anyway, yeah, stack of just blank discs. Back when you actually needed those. So yeah, that's just blank discs. Next thing we're going to look at is this. And you can tell right away it's got games in it. Because this is Doom. Not the first-person shooter, but the first successful first-person shooter. Everything that came after it was a Doom clone. At least that's what we called them. We called them Doom clones because, well, basically it was Doom, but with a new skin, using ID Software's game engine. And hold on a second. I gotta make sure something doesn't happen. And you can hear it right now. I do not want the air conditioner on right now. So, continuing. Doom. I do have Doom 2, but I have Doom 2 on CD. And again, CDs are going to be in the next episode. Independence Day. When did Independence Day come out? 96. So yeah, when you bought the action figures for the Independence Day, it came with discs with little games on it. And I had the Alien Commander, the Alien Scientist, and the Alien Spacecraft, like the Attack Fighter. Those are the only 3 I had, so I have this 1, 2, and 8. There were a whole bunch in between that I didn't have. They had these little nifty little games that came with the action figures. They don't do that anymore. You know? We don't ship software with action figures anymore. Another video game, Spectre. And Spectre, what is Spectre? I'm trying to remember. Oh, Spectre is a clone of another game called Battlezone, which is a vector art tank game. I really need to get a computer running that actually runs floppy disks, because this was a fun game. Moving along. What do we got here? Oh, this is not a game. This is software. This is learning software. It's about the solar system. I actually used to play that a lot. It's one of those where it's got a picture of the solar system. You click on the planets, it tells you stuff about them, and that's really about it. It's basic astronomy learning software. Oh, fonts. Fonts were big back in the day. There were all kinds of. Now you've got hundreds of thousands of fonts that come and go and use, and everybody talks about Comic Sans is horrible and don't use Times New Roman, and everyone says that Arial is horrible because it's a knockoff of Helvetica, which is, I don't know. I took typography and I learned all that stuff, and basically my takeaway with it is there are basically 3 types of fonts, and people who are really into typography are going to hate me for this when I say there's the kind with the little feet on it, the kind without the little feet on it, and the kind that look all scribbly and stylized. And that's it. Those are the 3 types of fonts that you will encounter. There is a 4th type of font called symbol fonts, which basically are when instead of getting a letter you get some weird little symbol. If you used Windows any time from about Windows XP backwards, maybe now, I haven't seen it in a long time, there's a font called Wingdings, and it's just all a bunch of little symbols. But this is actually hieroglyphics. It's the actual Egyptian hieroglyphic alphabet in font form. Allows you to type in hieroglyphics in font form, which is really cool. I picked it up when there was like an ancient Egyptian exhibition at I think it was in Tampa. Yeah, it was in Tampa, and and they had the Treasures of Tut's tomb. 97. Yeah, I picked this up in the gift shop. Oh, that was really cool. It was really cool. Here we have PC Draft CAD software. This is what originally got me into computer graphics. Was this thing? It's very primitive. It's actually designed for engineering work, but it got me realizing, hey, I could do computer graphics pretty good. And from there on, after this, I went to some more advanced programs. I don't have the one that I really cut my teeth on, TrueSpace. Actually, I think I do. But again, that's a CD, and we will be covering that in the next episode. This is where I got started. And it led me down a wonderful path that ended in thousands of dollars in debt and a piece of useless paper that will not get me hired. But that is a rant, and this isn't a rant channel, at least not yet. We might have rants later some other time, and I'll rant about college and education and student loans and me being very, very angry about that. But anyway, here we have Star Navigator, and this is a planetarium. You plug it in, put it in your computer, and it gives you the exact minutes, seconds, degrees, arc seconds of every star in the sky at any point on the globe, from any point on the globe, at any time of the year, at any date, forever, both forwards and backwards, which is really cool. And what I always wanted to do, I used to have a telescope, big, huge, beautiful telescope. I don't have it anymore. I know where I left it, but it's probably not there anymore. But that's, again, another story for another time. But this, the reason I brought that up, is because it has what is called communication over serial port, which is if you had a special kind of control mechanism mounted on your telescope, you could use this software to tell your telescope where to point and tell it to hold it there and follow it, track it, do all other sorts of really nifty, cool stuff that I really wanted to do back in the day, but I couldn't afford the actual equipment. So I just used it as a planetarium to see where things were, take my telescope out to the driveway, which had a big, giant floodlight, street light, drowned everything out, and I couldn't really see anything. Yeah. Thank you, urban planners. Light pollution. What is this? Oh, again, software. This is designed to allow, what is this? Oh, SATA. Okay, SATA connections. About in the when was this? When was this thing from? 2000. Yeah, early 2000s. They switched over from IDE connection cables for hard drives, which are the big, long, giant ribbons that if you pull apart an old computer, you'll see the big, fat ribbons that connect the motherboard to the hard drives and the CD drives and the floppy drives and all of that. And they switched over to SATA cables, which are the tiny little... Oh, there's a siren going on. Apparently someone's getting arrested. Anyway, real world's distracting me. What this does... So, my old computer that I had before the one that I have now, that I had for years, that was the upgrade from the 486 to the Pentium 4 system. The Pentium 4 system does not have SATA connections on it because the motherboard, the Chain Tech, that was the name of the that was the last IDE socket 486 Pentium 4 board that I bought for a computer. It does not have SATA ports. They stopped making hard drives with SATA connections. No, they stopped making them with IDE connections and made them all use SATA. So I needed to get a special card, a little expansion card, so I could use SATA connectors for hard drives and disk drives and all of that other fun stuff. And this was the software that told the computer how to read SATA to what is it? I can't, like the expansion ports. Yeah. What do we got here? Oh. Oh, this is a screensaver, because it used to be when you had the CRTs, if you left an image on it too long, it would burn itself into the screen. You would never get away from it, because it literally burned the screen. So you had to have a screensaver. This particular one, King Schools Aviation. My sister went to school to learn to be a pilot, and this was something that they handed out, I think. And when is this from? 99, yeah, 1999. So I've got it. I have no way of getting the information off because I don't have a floppy drive. They don't make floppy drives anymore. I gotta find a way to get these things off again. Oh, more flight software. Test prep. This was what you needed to. This is the test. This was the test. Probably changed since then. 96. Oh no, this came from my father when he took his test to get his. My father was an Army aviator, and after he retired, he let his pilot's license lapse. And then in I think it was the late 90s or early 2000s, he got back into flying, so he had to take the test. So this is before the era of online testing. You would go to a physical location, take the test, hand it in, and this was how you would learn. This was if you had a computer back then. You would load up this software. You would practice taking the test. So the FAATP test prep. What do we got here? Address book. Yes, an address book. This is now just an app on your phone. But see, when was this from? This is from 1990. So what this is, it's a program that you would put in people's addresses, telephone numbers, and contact information that you would have available on your computer that you could then print out into a binder and carry with you. Because that's what we did back then. Hard to believe times like that existed. Things have changed so much. What are we looking at next? Oh my goodness. What do we got here? Prodigy. This is an internet service. Prodigy, everyone was a early competitor to AOL. And AOL back in the 90s was, for many people, the internet. The way people refer to Google now, not Google now as the service, but Google as the company. Google occupies now the same niche that AOL took back in the 90s, which was the big giant company that basically ran the internet. So, a little bit of current events now. Everyone's up in arms about how, oh, Google controls everything. We'll never get away. They're going to own everything. Oh no! And then I remember AOL. AOL owned everything. AOL was the internet. Who even uses AOL now? Just a few holdouts. Even the last thing that they had that actually people continue to use, AOL Instant Messenger, is dead. AOL is a shadow of its former self. Prodigy doesn't exist anymore. It was rolled into CompuServe, and CompuServe died so long ago. But yeah, this is my first internet service. Prodigy, back in 94. Yeah. What do we got over here next? Ah, we have our other online service that we used before 94. No, after 94. Because my father loved to be on the cutting edge of technology. Always. It's always got to be the cutting edge of technology. So this was the new service. GTE. Who remembers GTE? General Telephone and Electric. Used to be, the story of we got to go back to the Bell Telephone Company. Bell Telephone, back in, I don't know when, long before before I was alive. I can be sure of that. Bell was broken up into multiple companies, one of them being GTE. GTE then began to acquire and merge and just basically took over until they were telecommunications. And then they got busted up into multiple companies, one of them being Verizon. So yeah, Verizon, Time Warner, all those, they can trace their lineage back to Bell Telephone, which was started by Alexander Graham Bell, the guy that invented the telephone. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because GTE basically owned the telephone and cable lines in the neighborhood I grew up in. If you were going to get TV, like cable TV, if you were going to get telephone, you were going to have GTE because they owned the cables. So eventually, once the internet kept coming around, well, they decided they were going to get into the service provider service, which meant that, well, how do you sell a service when it doesn't matter where you are? The internet. You just had to dial into a server. You just needed a telephone line. So the telephone companies would do probably something that was not defined as illegal because they didn't know you couldn't. You didn't know you couldn't do that, which was throttle the bandwidth of competing companies and prioritize their own service. GTE did such a thing. and it's one of the reasons they got busted up into multiple companies. So anyway, what this is this is GTE's internet service, which comes with Netscape Navigator. Netscape Navigator was one of the early, big three early internet browsers. There was Mosaic, Netscape, and Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer still exists. Mosaic is dead. Netscape, the name Netscape is dead, but the code base, like the original source code that went into making Netscape, has since been was the founding basis of Mozilla, which is Firefox. So if you are using a offshoot of the Mozilla browser, be it Firefox, Pale Moon, Opera, whatever name some random jerk off in his base decided to name it, you're using something that can trace its lineage back to Netscape. And this is Netscape Navigator, possibly the first version. Netscape Navigator, possibly one of the early versions of it. Designed for Windows 3.x. Pretty cool. Where are we going to next? Logitech scanner. Again, scanners. Scanners were like all the photo touch. I don't know if this is the one I'm thinking, but we used to have a hand scanner. I don't know if this is the hand scanner or just one of the early flatbeds. But either way, 91. This is probably the hand scanner we had. So the hand scanner is long dead, but I still have the software. Yeah. Moving right along, what do we got here? We got 2 discs of IBM 5250. Oh, this is an emulator for a big IBM mainframe that you would run on your home computer if you had to do something. So this is one of my father's CDs. It's not a CD, this is a floppy. Yeah, because he did a lot of work in financial whatnot, because he was a CFO, Chief Financial Officer, so he worked with this kind of stuff. So he probably used this to access records that he made or someone else made that he had to interact with on an old IBM mainframe. Okay, this goes with it. This is diagnostic tools, adapting tools. What do we got here next? Oh, we got some more DOS. Another 6.2. 94 version of DOS. We got a lot of DOS discs around here. Probably came from his work. What do we got next here? Bitcom. What is Bitcom? Oh, as I said, you used to have to connect to the internet over the phone. And what this is software that turned your modem into a fax machine. Because until the era of the fax modem, you had either a fax machine or a modem. They weren't one and the same. This is, yeah, late 80s, early 90s, 91 was when this software came out. That was when, if you were going to send a fax, you had to have a separate fax machine or software that would convert your digital file into a fax. So yeah, Bitcom. CompuServe. Remember when I said Prodigy was bought by CompuServe? Here we go, CompuServe from 95. So let's see if we can figure this out. We had 94. That's 90. So 94, 95, 96, and then from then on we had AOL until when did we get right? Yeah. Oh yeah, we had AOL. Then in the late 90s they started up the free internet craze. Freeinternet.com, NetZero, Juno, all those. They were originally free services. NetZero. If you have NetZero or you have used NetZero and you paid for it, you're a chump. because I used it for free until they said you couldn't do it anymore, because I didn't want to pay for internet. Why would I be paying for internet? That's ridiculous. Anyway, what is this? Okay, this is a disk. PC Anywhere. I remember using this. This is actually a piece of software that I actually remember using. And it's a command line software that you ran from DOS, and it allowed two DOS PCs to share files over the internet. Which nowadays, that doesn't sound like anything. It's like, what? Why would you? People don't understand how difficult it was to do things back then. And literally, you had to have two computers on. You had to tell computer 1 where computer 2 was. You had to tell computer 2 that it was going to be receiving something. So this specific piece of software had to be loaded into both computers on both ends of the connection. One had to be set up to send. One had to be set up to receive. And the one that was going to send would contact the other computer over the internet. So both computers had to be online. This is the era of dial-up. So you would have computer 1 set up to send, connected to the internet. You'd have computer 2 set up to receive, connected to the internet. You would then have computer 1 talk to computer 2. They would both agree that yes, we are connected and we can send files. A file would then be sent over the internet from one computer to the other computer. The other computer would receive it, then send a message back to the other computer telling it that it had received the message. And your file would be transferred in probably about a couple of hours, maybe. So a 1.44 megabyte floppy disk would probably take about 2 hours, maybe three, about 2 or 3, yeah, probably about 3 hours, 3 or 4. Let's just 3.5 hours. That's factoring in lost bits, corrupt bits, resending. Now you may say, oh well, 3.5 hour phone call. That's a 3.5 hour phone call while connected to the internet in the early 90s, which you were probably doing this long distance. And long distance cost more back then too. So you're probably looking at maybe a $100 phone call to transfer a file over the internet. And the thing is it's like probably about an $80 phone charge. That's counting in the internet charge and the phone usage. So yeah, probably about $80 to transfer one floppy disk worth of information. Which back then you had to think, did it really matter if it got there right now? If it didn't, you'd just take this, put it in an envelope, send it off, it'd get there maybe like about a day or two. Unless it was a priority, it got shipped out on the US mail. Don't do that anymore. What is this? Norton antivirus. Which version is it? I have no idea what version this is. It does not say, does not give any information. There's probably something that my dad brought home from work for use on our computers. We got a lot of high-end corporate software back when I was growing up, because my dad would bring it home from the office and we'd put it on his computer, we'd put it on my computer. So yeah, Norton, back when it was actually kind of nice to have. What is this? McAfee. Oh, there's a date on this one, 96. Yes, McAfee before it sucked. Again, that kind of stuff. Resume, probably my father's resume. What do we got here? We got something. Convert 70. Oh, this probably has something to do with this stuff. This IBM emulator stuff. It's probably something that he ran through here to here. That says Convert 70. Yeah, it's probably from back when he was working at one of the local gas stations doing their stuff. Okay, another copy of Lotus. Another copy of Lotus. An unlabeled disc of something. I have no idea what's on this. Figure that out. These may be blank discs. Okay, that's a blank disc because that's where the blank discs are. That's where the blank discs begin here. Some blank discs. What is this? Info Business Federal Database Finder. 1990. Again, probably some of my father's work software. Something to do with... I have no idea what. I have no idea what this is. Other than it finds federal databases. Databases of what? I have no idea. What databases it finds. What do we got here? Blank discs. Yep, blank discs. Well, that is the floppy disks. But we're going to be looking at CDs next. Now my CDs are games. That didn't turn out well. Yeah, let's try that again. Games. Yeah. Games. We're going to have fun with those because I really collected a lot of games over the years. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.